Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RailCats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Savetich, and we are coming off of a miserable loss. I would probably say 13-0 in the rubber match against the Chicago Dogs. I It's one of those games that you just you throw away at the end. You know, the pitching. I mean, pitching did halfway decent through the middle frames ish. I would say the first three innings really killed us. Strom only gave up what 3 runs there in the seventh. So you give up 10 through the first three. You're probably not gonna win a game very more often than none. Elio Serrano didn't look too good. He only pitched 1 2/3, I believe, is his stat line. Yeah, 1 2/3. It looked a lot like the command wasn't there as far as where the pitch locations were. A lot of them were kind of like right down the middle. Uh, it's just one of those days you kind of put in the back burner, you let it go. I mean, he gave up a couple runs in the spring training game. I'm not sure what they're doing with Adam Heidenfelder. I thought he would be at least at the top of the starting rotation. I don't know if he's hurt or if they're going to put bullpen work into him, but I thought he was going to start today. That's would have been my choice, but I'm not the one making those decisions. I mean, Carlos Vega came in afterwards. He gave up a couple runs as well. It was he had a couple of those where it was just kind of right there in the plate. He was the only one that didn't give up a home run, though. Leafstrom did give up 1 home run. I mean, to put the people on base at the beginning of that seventh, they were jammers. I mean, he was pitching very well. He had 2 strikeouts and 2 innings. I mean, he was painting the corners, and he kind of had a little hiccup a little bit in the seventh. But that tends to happen a little bit when you're probably putting a little bit more pressure on yourself than needed to be. The Dogs are a good team. They won the division last year. That there's a reason for it. They have good pitching. They have good fielding. Really, last night, the only reason the RailCats won was because the Dogs fielding didn't help them out, and I think the momentum just kept going and kept going and kept going. But we're seeing a trend here, and I don't like the trend where it's going. You saw in the spring training that their bats just can't get around. They get good hits, they get good plays, but they just can't consistently put it together. Right now, the hottest player, I think, for the RailCats is Daniel Langlois. I mean, he is batting a 500 right now. I put out a tweet. He has 1 home run. That was the grand slam last night, which was beautiful, but he started that inning out last night with a triple. I believe he's 3 for 6 is what I think I have. Well, I guess he's under now because he did what was that? Oh, he struck out there in the 8th. So I think he's 3 for 7. But still, he's still having a great batting line. I mean, a lot of the players are. Let me look up here real quick. Everyone, Daniel Langlois has a 429 is what he has right now. And then after this game, everyone dropped down. Smith is the only one. Jackson Smith is the only one that has a 500, but he only had 2 at bats this season. So I'm going with the people that have had majority of the at bats. Langlois is up there at top. He's the one that's been more consistent, more productive. I get why he's at the bottom of the lineup, but if he doesn't have the speed like Javian Williams or KV Edwards does, so maybe put him in the second spot, but he's still getting on base. But giving him one less at bat as someone that's this hot right now, I think he should be a little bit more towards the top of the lineup than the bottom. I get wanting to have a second leadoff hitter, but when your leadoff hitters aren't producing, then I guess I should take that back. KV is producing, but the issue is every time he's getting on base, he's putting himself in sticky situation where you saw it in spring training. He gets caught stealing. He got picked off today. What inning was it? It was the 8th inning. He has a beautiful hit, but then Jackson Smith pops out to first base and he's halfway off the bag. Like he is assuming that ball's going out, and you can't let that happen. You can't have uh, brain farts, especially. I get the game was out of reach at that point, but you're trying to save the base runners. I mean, he's not stealing, he's not doing anything. He's just making a careless mistake, and that happens. But it's issues that are arising with this team that can't happen if you want to win more games. You can't have that if you're in a close game. Yes, it's a blowout, and people are going to forget about it, but when you look at the game, you watch the game, you just can't have those mental mistakes. And it seems like every time KV gets on base, he's taking himself out of the play by making not so smart decisions. But with time, I think that'll come. I mean, like I said, this team is still very young. A lot of these players are still very young, and they have the capability of being very good. But a lot of the times, it's the mental mistakes that happen. I know I didn't do a post-game show last night. I had a terrible headache throughout the whole game, and then the game was kind of a blowout, and I said I really have to lay down and go to bed. So I didn't get into that game. I mean, that game was fun. I think Guab played a very great game. I think having the Dogs make so many errors, I think they only really gave them one error last night, but I think they should have had a little bit more. But it was just a revolving door of errors and mistakes and things that happened, and they played very good defensively. The pitching was very, very good. Cuello played very well. He pitched very well. So far Lub King got hurt, but from him and Cuello, they've all pitched very well, and hopefully Lub King can come back and be fine. Like I said, I haven't had any updates. I haven't seen anything on him, so hopefully he'll be fine and ready to go. But just kind of going back and looking at this game, looking at the players, Edwards was 1 for 4, and with 2 strikeouts. Woodworth was 0 for. Michael Cruz went 0 for 2, had 1 walk. Jackson Smith went 0 for 1. Wall Raven went 0 for 3 and had 1 walk. He might have had a sack, though. No, he didn't have a sack. We didn't score. The average, they're giving me an average on here, but if he went 0 for 3, then he wouldn't have had an average. Unless their updated average is not just in the game themselves. I think that's what that is. See, Olid went 1 for 4. Burgess went 2 for 3. Davian Williams went 0 for 4. Javian Williams went 0 for 3. Daniela McGuall went for 1 for 2 and had 1 walk. And speaking of Javian Williams, this man is just putting up a highlight reel. He made in spring training that dead center over the field left or over the left shoulder running back to the wall catch was absolutely gorgeous. He made it a top 10, should be on Sports Center. Diving, he full extension. He got at least 3 feet off the air and caught a ball. And then tonight he made almost in the same general vicinity, more of a diving catch slide kind of deal. He has been all over the place. He is probably the best fielder that the RailCats have. He's been on top of his game and out in the outfield. He reads balls very well. He has the speed. And he's just that elite person that you want in center field. If you watch the White Sox play, Luis Robert is a prime example of why you need a speedy center fielder. He's all over the place. He makes plays look easy, and they're not so easy if you don't have the speed. So I like what I see from him. It's just I think the offense needs to hold off a little bit. They had 9 strikeouts today. If they can, they had 4 walks, but I think if I can pull up the stat line from yesterday, I didn't have the stat line written down fully from yesterday, but I think they had a little bit more walks. let's see here. Let's go to the schedule. I'm just going to pull it all up from yesterday. They had, I guess they only had 5 walks yesterday, and they had 11 strikeouts. So I kind of don't rest my case on that one. But I just think yesterday, a lot of it was their issues with the Dogs' issues with hitting, or with fielding at least. So we're seeing a trend that I'm not like. I mean, the pitching was great in the first 2 games, and it wasn't so good in this game. Like I said, the Dogs are just very good hitters. They hit very hard home runs, and you look at impact field, and it's not a very big field in general. So I mean, anything that's gonna, if it's get up in the air, the wind's blowing the right way, it's Chicago, it's gonna go. Which it seemed like a couple of that happened on a couple of the home runs from the Dogs. Now, looking at the next series, they have an off day tomorrow, and then they resume back on the 17th against the Kane County Cougars, who on Friday night put on an offensive show against the Cleburne Railroaders. It was 20 to 6. They were putting on a clinic, and then they ended up losing yesterday 9-6, and then they ended up winning today 9-3. So we are seeing a very offensive team again in Kane County. If pitching shows up, I think we will be fine. Like I said, we gave up 4 and 5, so we gave up 9 in 2 games, and then today's clunker. If you can stay around that area, I think we'll be fine. I don't think we would have given up that many runs yesterday if it came down to it being a little closer of a game. But I mean, you saw on Friday that pitching gave up 4 runs, and there was a lot, and they weren't earned runs. You say they weren't earned runs, so realistically the pitching didn't really give them up. It was a lot of walks. I think walks ended up hurting them a little bit, but the errors mostly was the big issue in that one. So I would be interested to see how this next road series goes. Who's going to be in the rotation, who's going to pitch. Obviously, I don't know when Heidenfield is going to play. I thought he was impressive in spring training. I don't know why he hasn't played yet. What the dealio is that I'm not in the office. I'm not Coach Rogers. I don't get to make those decisions. I don't know if he's hurt or whatever the case may be. But I think looking forward with the RailCats, I think maybe a little switching up of the lineup. I mean, we have one. I'm not really going to count Jackson Smith in this one, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people hitting over 200. And the Dogs have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people hitting over. There's only 2. I guess they have there's a. But still, I mean, even at that, he was a pinch hitter. So even that, you have 7 out of 9 people hitting over the 200 mark. The RailCats have 1, 2, 3 people, 4 people hitting over 250. You have 1 person hitting over 3, and that same person's hitting over 4. The walks have to be a little bit better. They only have 4 walks, but yet again, the Dogs have 5. And here's another thing that I see a lot, and I didn't really see it out of the RailCats. I saw it out of Krieger, number 6 for the Chicago Dogs. Saw it in this night's game. If you have 2 strikes on you, okay, this is what I was taught, and this is what I kind of live by. Even when I was coaching, this is what I lived by. If you're down 2 strikes, you should never be caught looking strike 3. Never. Not unless it is a pitch that it's very I'm talking something you really have to chase. Like you have to If it's one of those calls where you're like, dude, I don't know. I get on like curveballs, and I guess for me, you should never turn around, look at the umpire, and go, "You have to be kidding me!" If it's close, what I'm getting to is you have to. If it's close, you got to swing. You got to make contact with it, and I saw that a couple times. I don't like. I get that. There might be a call that we disagree with, but still, if it's that close, you got to take a hack at it, because if you don't get a pitch that you want. You're gonna strike out, and you're gonna go back. You can argue, and then you're gonna look like an idiot. That's just my personal opinion. But like I said, tonight's game, I would say, is one of those you throw away. Through the series, I think you learned that they have to play better defense, and I think they did throughout. It's still early. The cobwebs are still there. You're really starting to now face live action, like you weren't, in spring training and practice. You don't get that. Like I said, the major leaguers get like 2-3 weeks to get through all of this stuff. Here you got like 4 games, and like, all right, let's go. Like, you don't get that timing down on certain things. So I think at the beginning, I know pitching, it doesn't really show it throughout the league, but pitching, I think, may have a little bit of an upper hand in certain situations, just depending on the pitchers themselves, if they've been in the league or if they're new to the league, or whatever their stat line is. I think they have a little bit more of an advantage to a tad bit, just because the hitters aren't getting the timing down. Like I said, I haven't watched I haven't gone through the league and see exactly what it is that everyone's doing. I mean, I know the Dogs had 15 hits, but a lot of those were through gaps and things like that. And I think that's what the RailCats are missing, is when they're hitting the ball, they're hitting it to people. They're not hitting the gaps. They're not making those efforts that they need. They're leaving a lot of people stranded on base as well. Some boneheaded mistakes here and there, but I mean, that's just going to happen throughout the course of the season. I guess I would rather it be in blowout games than versus close games that hurts more. But I think overall, we've learned a lot, and I think you're going to take this into accountability. Like, the Dogs are a very good team. Like, it's one of those things that they're older, they have the more experience, they have people that have played in the MLB for a tad bit longer. They have the power. I don't think the RailCats have quite the power, and I think that's based on the kind of stadium they play in. The Steel Yard's probably one of the bigger stadiums in the American Association. The Dogs it's not very, very tall at all. I mean, it's right there. So I think once you get to a field that's a little bit more open, I think the production will be there, just especially if you get in the outfield. But all in all said, I think it was a good first series. Get into it a little bit. It's still early. So yeah. So we're looking at a 3-game series against the Kane County Cougars. That will be the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And then after that, Friday will be the home opener, which I will be at, and me and my fiance will be at. I think we'll have a fun time down there. It's always a fun time going to the Steel Yard. So yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for me. And I know it was a tough series, not the outcome we wanted, but we got at least one win out of it. So, we just take it day by day and move on, and enjoy the off day, get recuperated, and then go kick the Cougars in the mouth. And yeah, so make sure to follow me on Twitter. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also on Facebook as well. Instagram, I don't go on much. But if you want to stay up to date, follow me on Twitter at RailCats Talk. That's where I do most of my updating and posting and all that other good stuff. But for me, I'm Kyle Savedich, and I want you to enjoy the rest of your night, rest of your day, whatever you're listening to this, and go Cats.